The transatlantic slave trade, also known as the triangular trade, was one of the most pathetic epochs in African history, as millions of Africans were displaced from their homes and forced to endure unspeakable horrors for years. The Atlantic slave trade involved the transportation of enslaved African people by slave traders mainly to the Americas between the 16th and 19th centuries. The vast majority of those who were transported in the transatlantic slave trade were natives from Central and West Africa who had been sold by West African slave traders, mainly to the Portuguese, British, Spanish, Dutch, and African slave traders, while others had been captured directly by the slave traders in the coastal raids. While it lasted, the transatlantic slave trade transported between 10 million and 12 million enslaved black Africans across the Atlantic Ocean to the Americas. In this video, we will explore the top 10 African tribes who were affected by the transatlantic slave trade and also examine their unique stories and legacies. Please, kindly take a second to subscribe to our channel if you haven't done so. The Chambers are an African ethnic group found in the Kongola state of East Central Nigeria and neighboring parts of North Cameroon. They speak two distantly related languages, Chambaleko of the Leko-Umbre languages and Chambadaka of the Chakoid languages, both of which are Niger-Congo languages. They were victims of Fulani's jihadi slavery in the 18th and 19th centuries. The situation was so severe that they had to migrate into the mountains to form guerrilla groups attacking Fulani slave merchants and slave trading caravans. This move soon bore fruit and helped reduce the number of the Chamba people being taken in as slaves. The Wolofs are found in the Senegal and some parts of Mali. Their origin is widely debated, but mainstream knowledge has it that they originated from the north and later migrated down the south. The Wolofs were made up of a variety of separate kingdoms, and constant wars between these kingdoms led to enslavement amongst the Wolofs, particularly with the arrival of Islam in Senegal, which was accompanied by jihad activities. Internal Wolof jihads resulted in internal displacement and prisoners of war who were then traded as slaves. The Hebrons inhabited the border of Côte d'Ivoire, Ghana, and Burkina Faso. They were at the center of the popular Gold Coast, and as such, many Hebrons fell victims to the active slave trade in their area, simply because they were located in a region in which the slave trade was intense. The majority of the Hebrons taken into slavery were given a specific name in Jamaica known as Coromants. Fulanis are one of the largest ethnic groups in West Africa. They are nomadic and also present in East Africa. They can be found in Senegal, Niger, Mali, Nigeria, Guinea, Cameroon, and all the way to Central African Republic. Their origin is highly debated, but it has been traced to North Africa. The Fulanis embraced Islam very early, and they had many prominent jihadists who swept across Africa. Ironically, as prominent as their sheikhs and jihadists were in slave trades, the Fulanis were also victims of slavery themselves. They were the primary slave raiders in West Africa, responsible for selling many African ethnic groups into slavery as they waged jihad on many occasions, and these expeditions were often accompanied by slave-raiding missions. Various Fulani groups would enslave others in the name of religion, particularly if they did not ascribe to Islam. Thus, Fulani groups that were not Islamic were also victims of the slave trade. The Mendes are collections of African tribes who speak the Mende language. There are so many tribes in African-speaking Mende. Therefore, it's illogical to call Mende a single tribe. Of all these tribes, the most prominent of all is the Mendenka. The Mendenkas built one of the largest empires in West Africa. They raided the coastline of West Africa and mingled with coastline people. The origin of the Mendenkas is largely the Sahara. Archaeology discovered Mendenka to be the first builder of a stone settlement civilization in West Africa. Mende's culture was the most dominant in West Africa from 1100 BC to 1600 BC. This is the largest ethnic group in Benin Republic, and some are also found in southwest Nigeria. They are a hybrid of other African tribes, and oral history has that they were formed from the intermarriage of Aija and Yorubas. The Fane people created a very popular kingdom called Dormi, and they are well known for their female warriors. The Fanes were oddly victimized during the slave trade and were most popular in Trinidad and Haiti. Due to their Yoruba ancestry, they are also renowned for their black juju practice in the Americas. The Bongos people are Bantu people living along the coastal region of the Central African Republic. They live primarily in the Democratic Republic of Congo, and Angola. Just like Mendhaka, they built one of the largest empires in Central Africa. The Bongos cults involved in the Atlantic slave trade, largely due to Portuguese intrusion, where the Portuguese were seizing citizens of the Congo Empire and enslaving them illegally on a mass scale. The situation becomes so dire that the Congo king wrote a letter to the Portuguese king complaining about the slave kidnappings. Eventually, the grandson of the Congo king, Kangazumba, was taken into slavery, and he would enter history as one of the Brazil's most prominent slaves. Zumba will later go on to build a big slave compound in Brazil under his independent administration, where he lived like a king at one of slavery's main ports of entry. The Bongos were one of the African tribes that converted to Christianity at the early stage of slavery. They are also among the first to have had an encounter with Portuguese trade merchants. Most of the Bongos slaves were taken to Southern America. Euras are one of the largest ethnic groups in Africa. They are native to the south-central and southeastern parts of Nigeria. The Euras were caught up in the slave trade as a result of the migration of the Euro Confederacy. The Euros had migrated to Igbo land due to the high demand for slaves. Upon migration, the Euro Confederacy captured and enslaved Igbos, selling them to Europeans, with many of the slaves taken from the Biafran coastline. Igbos sold to Europeans accounted for 13% of slaves abducted from Africa. The Yorubas are an African tribe of north-central and southwestern Nigeria as well as Southern and Central Benin Republic. They are one of the largest and oldest ethnic groups in Africa, and they have also been dated by archaeology as one of the oldest civilizations in Africa, dating as far back as 11 BC Numarod era. They were mainly sold as slaves in North and South America. The Yorubas are notable for not losing their culture wherever they find themselves. Even as strangers in a foreign land, they created shrines and worship centers in Jamaica, Cuba, Haiti, the Dominican Republic, St. Louis, Brazil, Trinidad, and Tobago. Today, the Yoruba culture is fast becoming a religion even among non-Yorubas in America. The slave trade radically changed lives, economies, environments, and cultures across the globe. Aside from the devastation it caused millions of enslaved people, the slave trade also reinforced racial hierarchies in America and Europe that upheld the oppression of black people for centuries. Thank you for learning about the Utlantic slave trade with us. If you haven't subscribed to our channel, please kindly click on the subscribe button, like the video, turn on your notifications, and share the video with your connections. Once again, thank you for staying with Explore African with the Maria. See you in our next video.